Welcome to Mpowered Living. I'm Sheu. On this podcast, innovative leaders and visionary experts share insights and practical tools for work, family, and marriage. Each episode, we'll explore how to elevate your life while staying grounded in what truly matters to you. You're working hard to navigate relationships, build a thriving family, and create a legacy of purpose. We're here to help you do that with confidence and intentionality. So if you're ready to live a life by design, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Mpowered Living. I'm your host, Sheu. And this episode is for anyone who's ever felt pulled between building something meaningful and being fully present with the people you love most. My guests today are Mike and Jill Kotsis, leaders, coaches, and parents who live with a level of intention that didn't necessarily come naturally or easily. What makes their story so compelling isn't where they landed, but the moment they realized something had to change and they chose a different path forward. In this conversation, we explore the kinds of decisions that quietly build or erode trust in a marriage. We talk about creating a rhythm that supports ambition without letting family pay the price. And we get into what it really looks like when kids are given ownership over their education and what that requires from parents first. If you've ever wondered whether a less conventional path might actually bring you closer to what matters most, you'll want to listen all the way through. Let's dive in. Mike and Jill, welcome to the show. I am so excited to have this conversation with you guys today.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
Yes, thank you. I have admired you guys for so long, and I'm personally excited to have this conversation because I know I'm going to learn so much from you guys. But I'm curious, you guys live so intentionally and thoughtfully, not just with your marriage, but with your parenting and your work. Have you guys always been this intentional your entire lives, or was there a moment where you realized, we've got to do things differently if we really want our marriage and our family to thrive?
Yeah, there was a moment early on in our marriage, and it was when we were working together at my family business. And that's when at that point, so we were about a year and a half into our marriage. No, we were even dating earlier on, just before we got married. And we realized that, I was pouring my all into our family business, helping it to turn around, helping my dad and uncles to retire. And I gave my all so much that my body gave out, and I had an autoimmune condition set in. And it was our wake up call for both me and Jill and our family. We didn't have any kids yet at that point, so we weren't married. We didn't have kids till about 3 years later. But it was just a real wake up call to say, where are we creating from? How are we creating our relationship? How are we creating our marriage? How are we creating work in our family? Would you add anything onto that?
I was going to say, we also are both very type A. That's been part of our unraveling. Once we had that awakening, it was very much like, okay, what are all the things that we need to, work on and be more intentional about? I mean, we've had a 180 from that more recently, but I think it kind of naturally came easy to us, like the planning and intentionality piece, because it's kind of woven into who we are, but it much more shifted at that point in time towards our lifestyle, how we eat, how we move, how we, how we're raising our family, all of it kind of snowballed from that.
What were some of the first things that you guys started working on?
Food was a big thing with
The
his
first thing,
autoimmune
was health and nutrition. I didn't view food as anything other than it's just a necessary thing you just need to eat to not be tired or hungry. And I just would put anything in my body, and it was, Subway and other things, like just eating to eat, not for fuel
and medicine.
And so that was really kind of like that was the thread that started pulling and unraveling so many different conversations were unlocked for Jill, just this deep rabbit hole of just real health, nutrition, wellness for her,
really
for me, for our whole family, in a whole just different paradigm shift for our lives. And this was back in 2006.
Wow.
That really, you started following that path. I was following like the business path of growth and self-development at that time. And those two started to intersect not too far beyond that point.
And I'm curious, as this was unraveling, as you went down this food journey, this nutrition journey, were the other changes that kind of followed suit, were those easy changes? Did they come naturally, or did you have to continue to be intentional about the next step and the next area of focus?
For me, it kind of came naturally. I grew up in a healthy household, but just, we were in our 20s and you just have less focus on that. My dad made me smoothies like every day for my whole life. So I was like, oh, I need to start doing that for us. It was no, it was rather easy and working out more consistently, working out together. I think everyone kind of has a little bit of a falling off in their college years, early career. You're focusing on other things and you realize, wait, it's all interconnected. It all affects my performance at work, right? It all affects who I'm being and how I'm showing up each and every day. I don't know. I can't speak for you on that one.
No, it was hard. It was hard. It was tough. I didn't realize how ingrained certain habitual behaviors were in my life. And then just really waking up to really challenge and shift them. And I was always focused on improving and serving out there. So
Mhm.
meaning my family, our family business, the employees, Jill, just everybody else. And I didn't have the lens of looking at me in that way, of me first, of taking care of me first to serve everyone else. I always had this well-intentioned but misguided belief that if I take care of everybody else, I'll then be okay at some point down the road. I'll have more than enough. And then so what I was doing is I was giving from my lack. I was giving from my leftovers. I was giving to our marriage, our relationship from our leftovers. And it was physically showing up in an autoimmune condition. And so that was a long habituated practice symptom that manifested in that way, I believe, because I was asleep to the way I was believing, the way I was acting and behaving.
I love that. We talk about that a lot at Empower Journey. We talk about me for we, right? This idea of putting your own oxygen mask on first so that you can continue to others pour into others. I'm curious, you had a wake up call with your autoimmune disease. What would you tell the listeners who know that they need to make a change, but don't have a personal wake up call yet? So there's no inspiration, no incentive, no motivation to make that change. How do they go about finding the energy to actually make this hard, difficult change in their life without the wake up call?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I would say it's, instead of making this hard, difficult change, this giant leap, it comes back to, for me, it's the daily incremental choices, the little things that seem like they're so little that why would I even give my attention to that? It's giving my attention to the little choices. If I don't want to be on caffeine, I'm making the choice to not drink coffee today. I'm making the choice to limit my intake of coffee and then bringing it down. I'm making the choice to wake up, to spend some time in breath and prayer before getting into even a workout or anything else in my day. It's those little choices, and we don't realize what we are avoiding. I'd rather not have that big wake up call in that way, and make those choices. And I think just by living a more intentional life and being more aware to the places that we didn't previously think we had a choice, and start questioning things, start just questioning, like, is this in service to me? Is this in service to us? And start coming from that place as a curiosity, not as a drilling, like, I
Yeah.
have to go down this path.
Yeah, I think that's oftentimes the mistake is, you see so many people doing these crazy, like intense diets, like going extreme and then they inevitably fail. And I've always been like, to me, I'm looking at like permanent changes. Like I'm not going to do something. We had to do short-term things for his autoimmune condition, like eliminating a lot of foods, and that's a little different. But like by and large, I make permanent changes, and those are things I'm going to be doing ongoing. It's a lifestyle for me. It's not just like some fatty, "Oh, I'm going to go keto for this short period of time." I'm a real food junkie. I
Not
make
junk
everything.
food, not junk.
No, not junk food. No, I'm a junk food Nazi. No, I don't like Halloween or, candy around here, but I'm also a realist too. I'm like not extreme in anything. like with our kids, I know that the more that I cut them off from that stuff, the more they're going to want it. So balance in all things. But yeah, looking at long-term changes of how can you shift from like this junk food that you are addicted to, like what's a healthier alternative, or small micro habits that you can continue forever, not just for a brief period of time and fall off because you tried to go too hard, too fast. So that's something that I've always feel like I've been really good at is, the lifestyle changes. And we've never done super extreme.
Yeah.
I know those don't stick. It's not, to me, that's just a waste of time.
You know what occurs to me as you're saying that is that it's coming back to curiosity in becoming a beginner.
Mm,
Becoming a beginner, like looking at our kids, they're learning things for the first time, right? And so me and all my years of wisdom feel like I know all, I don't question those things. Well, it's starting to question those things as a beginner again and starting to question back and not make the leap that I had been so used to striving over my years personally and professionally and achieving as an entrepreneur. It's not about that big monumental leap. It's about that curiosity and willing to be a beginner in all things, in beginning to experiment, to beginning to find what works, not being resolute and saying, this is the way I'm going 100 miles an hour in this way. And then, something else will like blow up in a different way in health. Like we have done some extreme diets years ago. And so I have done extreme workouts in different ways. And then all of a sudden my shoulder goes out or something and so that doesn't, that's not helpful. That's not helpful.
You're right. So I would tell someone wanting to make a change. I mean, I guess to boil down, I like what you said about the small things, but like think of it as an experiment and see how you feel, right? Because I think people aren't really tuned into how they really feel, And so if you make those small changes, you can notice a really big impact. And also learning. I'm like just a learning junkie. And the more you learn about like what you're doing to yourself, you can't unlearn it. And that's been my superpower is the more I learn, the more I'm like convicted,
yeah.
So
Yeah. It's good to know that the small changes are impactful because I just started a health challenge with my family where we're counting points. So you get like a point for eating a serving of greens or a point for a meditation, even if it's only 3 minutes, a point for
Mhm.
journaling, even if it's only a sentence. And as I was like setting up the challenge, I was thinking, these are so little, like, is it even going to matter? But you're kind of validating, like, it's just the little first baby step. Like if we could just get our family to do this,
Oh,
then maybe some small little
Newton's law.
or
Yeah.
some.
It's easier to continue. It's easier to continue those small things. Starting is more than half the battle.
Well, as an example of that, just even the last couple of days, and this has happened over and over again in the recent years, is that our oldest daughter, Lenny, who's 13, she realized that she went to a birthday party over the weekend. It was on Saturday, and they had pizza. We said, we know that they're going to have dairy, and dairy does not sit well with you. And she did. She consciously chose to not take anything with her. And so she had some pizza, and she came back. She said, like, I got a headache. My stomach's not feeling right. And so she's realized she's making the connection over and over again. She's making the connection of like, hey, this doesn't feel so good. I'm going to helping her to make choices for herself. I can't do it for her. Jill can't do it for her. Like she's starting to make that connection in those choices. And so we talk about it. Like that's part of our family. Like we talk about those things, those choices, and what do we learn from it? And what do we want to change? What do we want to do differently?
Okay, so speaking of doing things differently, I am dying to talk to you guys about Soul School. Can you guys just share with the listeners what you guys are doing, what Soul School is? Yeah, so I've got so many questions. I can't wait to dive into this.
Sure.
I
So
like
the brief is so Soul School is something that we do as a family. It's something for all six of us. It's our questioning to the way we learn, and it started with a thought for one of our children, the same daughter I was just talking to you about, Eleni, when she was in fourth grade. She was just not one for the regular school system. She was one that was she's very creative. She can't sit still. She's always got to be moving and her hands on different things. And so we were starting to look at different alternative ways of schooling. And it, as we were reading different books, unschooled, as we were going through coaching for us individually and together, we realized that there was this unraveling of the way that we see life, the way that we're living life. We're unwinding 40 plus years of the way that we thought things are in our reality and coming back to learning and becoming curious like children again. And so coming back to this curiosity, we realize that, our kids are divinely, they're connected to that curiosity. They are born curious. And then the way of the world beats it out of them.
We say that about little kids, but then we just assume that it just goes away, right? Everyone knows that little kids, why, 2, 3, 4-year-olds, that doesn't really stop there.
No, it's staying with that. And so we had this realization. Our two oldest were in 5th and 4th grade, and they were taking a Latin class. And one of the words they were learning in Latin, first they were really starting to resist Latin in school because they started to have the love of learning started to flicker out. The flame started to flicker out. School started to turn from a want to a have to.
They were complaining that they were bored more and more frequently, which was a big red flag.
It was in coming back to that, the word education, they were taught in Latin, and the Latin root of the word is educare. And the word educare means to learn from within.
Mm.
And the realization and the way the school system is designed, it's to teach as if you don't know anything. And it's all the things you don't know. So teach from the outside in, instead of what the root of the word means is to learn from the inside out, to learn into God's wisdom and to learn from that to lead your life. That's where Soul School was born for us. We realized, hey, when we want to learn something, Jill and I, we dig in and we learn it. We excited. We learn it fast, but when we feel like we have to learn something,
Doesn't stick.
no. And you memorize it, you cram it in here, and then what do you do
Take
with
the
it?
test and then
Yeah. I took the bar exam. I don't remember anything.
that was my entire, so we did a lot of reflecting at that point too on our own learning journeys. And we were school, I was a school kid through and through, came home, did my homework the second I got home, straight A's, head of my class. But I look back on it and the only things that really stuck were the few classes that I loved, literature and AP humanities. I loved studying art. I love history later on. I grew to love history. And so, yeah. And then we had learned many things. I did a nutrition program, and then I was in USM, University of Santa Monica spiritual psychology program in my adult life. And those things, oh my goodness, it's it became so distinct as we reflected on it. I chose that and I took in so much more and had so much transformation, much more versus college. What did I learn in college? We were on the conveyor belt is how we refer to it, just doing what everyone else did because that's what society said you need to do next. So we started really digging and questioning all of that. It's okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? If this doesn't have to happen, then how does that change what we do right now?
So the root of Soul School comes back to choice. And so we started to question something that we previously didn't think could be questioned, or just weren't even allowing ourselves to question, is the way that we school our children, the way that we live our lives, the way we educate. And that's when we posed the question to our kids at the time of if one or more of them wanted to do this thing that we were calling Soul School, that we don't know how this is going to work. We don't know what's going to happen, but we would, if you want to stay in school, regular school, you can. If you want to come and do this, this is what it's going to look like, is that you are going to be the leader of your own education. So, and we are going to be here as guides to support you. We are not creating a whole curriculum or anything else. It's focused on who we are, whose we are, and why we're here. Those are the 3 principles of Soul School, that we believe that we're all made in the image of God. And when we tune into God's unique purpose and design for each one of us, and I'm not just talking about our kids, I'm talking about each one of us, and help to foster and create an environment that supports that growth, that is what school is. All of life is schooling. All of life is Soul School. That's where it was born from.
And did all your kids jump on it right away, or did they trickle in?
3. Penny was a baby at the time, our youngest. Zachary and Eleni right away were in. But our kindergartner, who was still in like the, school's kind of fun, although it's funny, he reflects back on it and he's like, I did not like school. Learning to read with him was really challenging. And they jump. So it's like, very intense, very fast, rigorous. We were at a classical Christian school. And he took a little bit more, like, we just had to like paint the picture for him a little more. And he was like, okay, I'm in. It was like such an easy, after that, it was such an easy, conversation. So yeah, they were, and it, something I did just to add into that I think I remember the moment when Mike looked up the Educare definition, and that was just like a, duh, like it just made so much sense, right? He was coaching with Steve Hardison at the time, who was like a world-renowned coach, life coach or in business. I mean, he's everything. And I was doing USM. And literally both USM and Steve Hardison, what they teach, the way they coach is that you already have all the answers. And so it's like, oh my gosh, how can this apply to our children? Right. And like what's the quote? Like that, God has purpose and a plan for you. Right. And that to prosper you and not to hurt you, not to harm you, that like that's already within each and every person when they're born. And like our job is more about helping to like nurture that and to like give them experiences and opportunities that help to like pull that out and express that and help them to like dabble in whatever that may be so that they can find that for themselves. Cause we can always like, no. Right. And so that became more the work for us as parents. And it just seems, man, it's so much more fun and it's so much more like, and it's really fascinating to watch, just how, especially our older two now who are, I still work, I might be getting ahead of myself, but I still do like some, I do language arts and math with my younger two who are in 4th and 1st grade to give them like the foundation. And the older two are doing like most everything on their own, except for we can get into morning time is something that we do all together. And so, yeah, it's really cool to see like just in the last year, the older two just taking off and I want to learn about this and I want to do this. And what if I tried that? And it takes some time because they have to like really see that, oh my gosh, I really am like in control of this. I really am like responsible for, it felt heavy at first, and now it's not, I don't think as much. So
Why do you think it's so hard for parents to lean into this trust and curiosity of their kids? Like, why do we get into this rut where we feel like we need to control and that we know best and that there's no way we could trust a child with their own education?
A couple of things pop to mind is that because we weren't trusted in that way. That's not our experience. That's not the experience that society tells us either. You've got to be on this path to be successful. You need to learn all of these things to be successful. And then you have family and relatives and other people that are in that mode of thinking. And that's in it. And it really works for some people. And I'm not bashing it. Like it really works for some people and that's great. It's different for us that we've seen something different for our own lives and our own family. And so when there's a lot of pressure, unseen, unsaid pressure that can happen, especially when we made the decision to do this. There's nobody in our family. There's nobody in our inner circle that was doing anything like even regular homeschooling or anything like we were doing or that we were about to do. And it was very different. And so what happens is internally, you talk yourself out of it before it even happens. So you hear the voices of judgment inside of yourself. It's like, oh, what are they doing? That's weird. What are their kids going to look like? All creepy and weird and like not be able to talk. Like there's all these things that come up. And then there's these stories or these comments or questions that don't get asked. And then your mind starts playing games on you at a certain point. We were really convicted of tuning into what we saw true to our hearts, regardless of what anybody else thought, and respecting what everybody else said. Oh, we did.
You can see all the questions behind the questions, the ones that they won't ask. I mean, one of the favorites is, do they have friends? Or do they get to have fun and do things that they, can they play sports? Can they do that? I mean, yeah. And people just have no idea. They don't know what they don't know. And that's okay. But one thing that came to mind to your question was, the the first thing that popped in my mind is like, as parents of young children, we see the behavior, we see the outbursts, we see them needing to be guided in their, I mean, obvious immaturity, right? So it's like, how can this being like possibly know what they should do with their life, right? Clearly, like there are some people that do like an extreme. We used to call it unschooling at a point in time where like we went through the deschooling process where we had to like help our kids to unravel their previous experience. And there are people who like really take their hands off the wheel and like give total freedom. And that's not what we do. Like for us, guiding our children and who they're being and how they're showing up, and like that is priority number one, and everything kind of flows from that. But I think that there's a lot of, I think that's what we see. And so imagining that these out of control little, terrorists, as some parents like to joke about their children, could possibly take the lead at any point in time. You know what I mean? Just seems like absolutely ludicrous, right? So I think it just seems like super easy to dismiss, right? Like, no, there's no way. They need me to do, and I think our society has gotten to like an extreme of that. I like to follow like, different bloggers who talk about, like the 1,000 hours outside or free parenting. And like we've gotten to this extreme where kids have no freedom. They have no ability to explore, to mess up, to fail. And I think that that is a huge disservice. So we have a lot of space for that, which I love, for our kids to, have those freedoms. And I think that's a critical part of growing up and learning. And that's soul school. Like, right. It's all, we talk about learning that way. It is life.
There's another example of that. It's relationships. So we focus on our faith and living as living images of Christ to each other and to others. And we are not perfect at it. And that is our opportunity to grow. And so when relationships disrupt our family nucleus, just disrupt our family core in a way, like we were just reflecting on one story. We were driving. I don't know where we were going.
We were going to church.
We were going to church, and on the way there, two of our kids got into this argument about who was sitting in what seat. I don't even remember what it was, or there was a, one was making a noise, and the other was like wanting to stop, and like I don't even remember what it was.
Those are the two most common.
But we said, okay, well, let's pull off. I mean, it's a 25-minute drive, right? And so we pull off into a bank parking lot, pull over, said, all right, everybody out of the car. And we get out of the car, we're going for a walk, walking around the building, and then having a conversation when everybody can settle. It's like we can't have those conversations when everybody's all worked up in there, including ourselves. It's like letting it all settle and have a conversation because we're focused on our relationships and honoring ourselves and honoring each other in that, making sure that we're listening to what the other person has to say, not getting our point across first. And so that's all part of it. That is soul school. That is every part of it.
And it can be
living
painful.
our life. Yes.
I mean, in that moment, I was like in the car with the little two, and was like, are they ever going to get in the car? Like we were 20.
Yeah. It's sacrificing being on time and being late and being okay. Like that. That's secondary. This is primary for us. Like that's the orientation. That's the way we look at it.
What's been the most surprising thing about soul school? An unexpected surprise, unexpected great that has come out of it?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. It's hard to distill one. I mean, one thing we've been able to do a lot of traveling as a family, which has been awesome. And that was kind of always like, ooh, that would be really cool. But we weren't financially in a place to be able to do a whole lot of it at the beginning. And we just got back from 7 weeks in Greece and Italy over the fall. And went during the school year. And so we weave in learning. We brought certain things, we read books together. And it's amazing to watch the kid, anytime you go somewhere and you see it through the kid's eyes, it's just, very different. And getting to see like where his family comes from. His family's Greek. And we got to go to the village and see his papu's village. And I mean, it was this super tiny, sleepy little town. And we were there for hours trying to find the house. It's quite a story. I won't give you all the details. But the kids, when we left, were like, I would go back there. And it's like, I was even surprised. I was like, there's nothing to do there. But loved the experience of sitting at the little cafeneo with the owner and seeing, I mean, they all stared at us like full on stare for like a minute when we pulled up, and then they all like left because it was the end of siesta time, and we were left with the owner of the cafeneo, and she told us like about the village, and they were just like fascinated. And so just like opening their eyes to the world, like as we travel, has just been awesome. And I studied abroad a couple of times in college, and Mike did a lot of traveling around his college years too. And so that was something that we reflected. I learned so much more studying abroad and traveling than through books, like through textbooks, about myself more than anything. And so we knew that that was something we really wanted to incorporate, and that has been just awesome. And then we have a homebody, like one of our girls, like she wants to be home. So it can be, it bumps up against like some discomfort, and we have to talk a lot about it. And, so it's all, everything's a little bit messy sometimes, but she thrived. She did awesome too. And
Yeah.
she loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say one other thing that's surprising or great with Soul School is that it's creating the space to do what our hearts are calling to do. One example would be Jill's had this poll or this call about a couple of years ago to serve locally. And she wanted to go find a local senior center. So just down the street. And so she started a relationship with the local senior center and taking her kids there once a month for about an hour or hour and a half, and no agenda. Sometimes you bring some coloring books or just other things, and just you don't know any of the people there. We're not related to any of the people there.
We always get asked.
You always get asked, but they show up and just be, and then have conversations, learn about different people and what they're up to. And so having all the kids interact with everybody there just helps to create more connection. It helps them to learn. They've learned some things about their lives that they never knew before. So there's different ways of learning.
I would recommend that across the board to families looking to do something impactful. Oh my gosh. First of all, and this is a little, rabbit trail, but they appreciate it so much, and they're constantly like, more kids need to do this. This is so good for us. It's look at your kids, and they compliment all the time. I mean, our kids go up there. They have created relationships with certain specific seniors, and they get excited to see them. And a lot of them are not in a good, it's not a super sunshine rainbows place. It's a sad place. And some of them are non-communicative, and it's good for them to see all of these things. And we talk about it on the way home. And some of them are hilarious, and they joke around. I mean, you get the whole, gamut. And it has just been so cool to watch them thrive in that challenging environment. I mean, they have just been amazing. I mean, they put on the smiles and, and start painting with them or playing a game of cards and like being both players, and just talking to them if they can't really do it. And it's like, that is to me, oh, wow. Like this is building up who they're being and who they're becoming in like such an incredible way. And this is just like one little thing, but we've been doing it for like 2.5 years. So it's just something we do, So yeah, I'm glad you thought of that.
It's not in a book. It's not part of a curriculum. It's just something that we're listening for ourselves, taking action on that together. And so we're doing that for each one of us with the different things that come out. So creating that space for those things to occur is one of the biggest surprises of what comes out of that, without having the plan or the idea or the goal to go do it.
Yeah. And it's not to put on a resume. It's not to, you know what I mean? We're not working on that. And nor would that ever be a reason that I would do it, Yeah, that's another thing that we really focus on, is like just not filling the calendar with a bunch of stuff, to be able to write it down and say, they participated in this, they participated in that. It's like, why? Is it meaningful? Is it, being intentional about how we fill the calendar?
Yeah. What does a typical day look like?
Oh man, there's not really a typical day. So when we're kind of like the most typical, I guess.
We'll get the most typical.
Yeah. Oh, with our kids or with us in general? I guess that's.
Well, I'm curious about morning time. Is it morning time? Is that what you guys do? Morning time, yeah. And then what unfolds after that?
Okay, so our kids, like, we don't have a alarm bell or like hard wake time. Our older kids are very routinized and they like to be up early, and our daughter was up at 6 this morning making
Just making
sausage, and
sausages.
she's in her cozy little robe and doing her school before I even came downstairs. Um and then after we kind of, do our working out, and while they slept in because we're getting off the holidays. But usually our two youngest are listening to audiobooks or reading to each other in the morning while I'm finishing working out. And then we start doing individual work, because morning time we usually do around 11. So I work one-on-one with, so we have a 9-year-old and 7-year-old, like I mentioned before, fourth and first grade. So I'll do language arts and math with the two of them, while the older two are just doing their own, like they have some online programs that they're a part of, or they're doing their math book or whatever, because things that they've chosen.
Yeah, like our son is taking a course through Hillsdale. Is 14, just taking a course there. Our daughter's taking a course through the Tuttle Twins Academy, and just things that are interesting about living, real life scenarios.
Yeah, they're doing consumer math, learning about taxes and compound interest and insurance and like real stuff, because that's what they wanted to do. And then around 11, we do morning time. So morning time, we read our declarations aloud, which is like our creation statements of who we are being. We pray. We watch something called World Watch, which is like a current events program. Is about 10 minutes long, and talk about that if there's anything big to talk about there. And then we have it's kind of rotating. We're doing some like science. Sometimes we read more like self-development books. Like some of our favorites have been The Warrior Kid.
What Carry
Chocolate
Water.
Carry Water. We read when we were in Greece and Italy. And then his second book,
Finish Empty.
Finish Empty. Those were so good. But so we read books like that. And I also read like
We have
classics.
conversations about them.
Yeah. And I also read like classics. So books that I know my kids wouldn't choose on their own. Like they're into the dystopian, like, after all the Harry Potters, our oldest is now reading Lord of the Rings, but then I don't even know some of the craze. It's not my genre. But anyway, so I'll read classic books. And then we're actually starting a new unit it's called Inquisitive Cook. So it's all about nutrition and cooking, and like really understanding the science of cooking, because I thought that would be interesting. And the oldest were wanting to do nutrition. They were wanting to learn more about nutrition and health. So I'm like, this ties in perfectly. And it's experiential, So we're going to incorporate that. And I usually do some history. So we're going to start learning about Michigan history. I'm kind of like turning a page in January. So we're doing Michigan history. But so that'll be like an hour and a half. That's only a couple times a week. And then one day a week, I'll do morning time with just the younger two, where I'll just do stuff more focused with them at their level. And yeah, the other days, they're just doing their independent work. So the younger two do a co-op one day a week, where it's just like elective classes. I sit down and do video like courses with our oldest, Zachary, because he's loving these Hillsdale classes. So I'm fascinated, and I'm sitting there taking more notes than him, trying to model how you take notes, because that's just who I am.
So before we wrap up, I want to talk about your relationship with each other. Curious what you guys have learned over the years of being married and leading your family that was surprising, something that you didn't know, something that you had to unlearn about marriage along the way to really get you guys to where you're at now.
Something we had to unlearn about marriage.
Yeah, when I said that, she pointed right at you.
Yeah.
What did I have to unlearn about marriage?
My parents were like a teen growing up, and that was like, and that's definitely what we are now. And that's how I always like envisioned, like we are in lockstep. Yes, I mean, you could look at me as I'm a stay-at-home mom, homemaker. I don't like that word, whatever, but but that's what I am. And we talked early on that was what we wanted for our family, and that was what I wanted. But like, there's not like this hard line. Like I'm involved in everything. You know what I mean? Like we make decisions together.
It's
we
really
respect each other's input.
intermixing our roles and how we contribute to the family. So Jill is very much involved with what I'm doing professionally in terms of freedom coaching. And I'm very much involved with soul school time and just
And the raising of our
one-on-one time with each of our kids. And all of that comes off the foundation of the two of us being on the same page and us spending intentional time together, on our date nights and on our getaways with just the two of us, and making sure that we communicate well and that we give time to each other. And so that is all foundationally based off of us praying together, us being in tune together. Like that's something that doesn't happen by itself. That doesn't, I can't wait for Jill to do that or fill my cup or bucket for me. And she can't do that in the other way around. I've got to create our relationship every day. She's got to create our relationship every day in her mind. And so that's a big part of our relationship, like that I didn't realize, is that how intentional of a daily creation, a daily renewal of our marriage really is through our language, through our thinking and speaking of it, and taking action from that place.
Okay, so can you give us a couple of examples of the taking action that you do daily to build that relationship?
Well, the daily actions change. So there isn't a prescription of like, these are all the things I need to go do today. It's that as I create Jill as my girlfriend, I create her as my best friend, my soulmate, my bride. And I create her in this way to me because it's fun and it's interesting. It's playful, it's curious. And some days from that, as I seek to learn something new about her and not take her for granted, thinking I already know everything about her, she challenges me sometimes. What did you learn about me today?
It's
It's a,
part of his declaration. I
it's
seek to
part of
learn
my
from.
declaration because I am being it and I'm becoming it. I'm never done. I'm always learning. I'm always growing. And I learn the way that she thinks, the way that she takes meticulous care. Like in the last 2 days, we went to Bavarian Village in Frankenmuth, which is a big water park for the kids. And just the amount of care and attention that she put to that to help create that experience for our family after technically holiday vacation is done was just really beautiful. And we had just some beautiful moments of playing games together and creating together, and just seeing her heart come out. And that to me is what strikes me. What strikes me is I get a warm feeling over it. And part of it is that what actions come from that. Sometimes I express it in words. Sometimes I write her a note.
That's
Sometimes
enough.
sometimes it's just a pause in the kitchen and a long extended hug. It's there's no one thing, there's no one prescription, but it's declaring I'm coming from that place and living into it.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add to that. But I would just to go back to your prior question and like our like success of our relationship, I think a really big thing too has just been us growing together. So we've been learning and growing together from the beginning. And I stated before, we both love to learn. We're book junkies. Mike's been in coaching programs and I have too. Like I did the USM program when I thought he was going to be the one to do it. And he's like, no, I think you should do it. And I was like, okay, but I'm not going to I'm not a coach. I'm not going to be a coach, but I've always loved psychology. So like I dug in and for me, that was just like a really cool opportunity to really get a glimpse into his world. And I like love it as much as he does, even though it's not what I do for a living, but I mean, raising 4 little humans,
It is what you do for a living.
yeah, it is what I do for a living. So like we're just very like on the same page. Because I think a lot of marriages, they just, there's that growing apart. If you're not being intentional and like what Mike said about creating in your mind each and every day, like you can create destruction of your marriage in your mind every day. Like it starts small, right? And then it grows and it grows and it festers. And if you're not having open communication and you're not creating it in a way that is positive and uplifting and you're not growing together, it's going to happen. It will fail. So,
Okay, let's do a couple rapid fire questions.
okay. Boy, okay.
Cool.
Thing you guys admire about each other right now?
Mike's commitment.
Your heart of service.
Habit or ritual or routine that keeps you guys connected as a couple?
Date night.
Yeah, date night.
A boundary that's made your life better?
And being able to say no to family and not feeling guilty about it. Every birthday
Yeah.
party doesn't need to be a priority.
Boundaries. I would say following what's in our heart and staying committed to that
Unapologetically.
without fulfilling the expectations of others.
That's way better.
Okay, and then last one, finish the sentence. A successful life is one where.
God smiles.
You're living your purpose.
Okay, so last question before we wrap up. For the couples that are listening, they're building businesses together, building families together, maybe one or both. What's your piece of advice that you wish someone had told you sooner?
Intentional communication is key.
I was going to say something along the lines of just not being afraid to go against the grain,
Mm.
question everything. All the societal norms are open for questioning.
Love that. Thank you guys so much. It's been amazing having you guys on the show. I've learned so much, and I cannot wait to share this episode with Sunny and all my friends and all the listeners. It's gonna be a game changer for a lot of our listeners. So I appreciate you guys sharing your wisdom and all that you guys are doing with us.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you for having us. This has been a lot of fun, and I appreciate your thoughtful questions and your thoughtful listening.
Thanks for tuning in to Empowered Living. I hope today's conversation sparked some inspiration and gave you tools to live more intentionally in your family, work, and life. If you enjoyed our episode today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an inspiring story or actionable takeaway. And if you know someone who would love this episode, share it with them. Because living an intentional life is better when we do it together. Until next time, remember, the life you want doesn't happen by chance, it happens by choice. Let's keep creating it one step at a time.